Ladies and gentlemen, dude and dudettes, I'm your host Matt Burns and welcome to TBT Reviews. Today's episode is the Academy Pro Wrestling title of Retribution, which was on the 21st of April at the Kyokushinkai Martial Arts and Fitness Centre, Courtworks Industrial Estate, Bridge North, Madeley, Telford, TF7 4JB. Now, just to mention, on this review is going to be a bit different than usual. We're only going to be showing the poster throughout most of this interview. There may be a action photo, but that might be used for a purpose later. But one thing I will state, that action photo is by the UK wrestling media, and I will also be putting a link in the description for all the photos that were taken of this event as well by the UKWM, also known as the UK Wrestling Media. Now, let's move on to the show review. Match 1, Harry Crews versus Joe Black for the King of the Kingdom Championship. Now, in this match, I will state Harry Crews versus Joe Black, very interesting dynamic. A lot of it, I will state, I did expect some big powerhouse moves from both Harry Crews and Joe Black, and I will state I was quite a bit more surprised that we saw Harry Crews leaving his feet a bit more than Joe Black. I would have usually expected Joe Black possibly try to be the more agile of two, but then again, Joe Black always does surprise a lot of people with his. He has a unique strength in him and determination, and I will say this match was back and forth. If anybody was able to see it, you just have to look at when they were hitting each other. You got Harry firing in forearms. You got Joe Black literally countering with hooks, jabs and whatnot. But what was so interesting in this match is you could see that Joe Black he's got a taste of the gold, and he's got a taste of breaking and bending the rules. Now, out of the two of them, I will state Harry Crews has been on the scene quite a bit, but in terms of bending the rules, I'd state Joe Black has the advantage in that sort of sense. But Harry being Harry, he always tries his best. He always fights a good fight. Now, in this match, I will state it was at one point very, very close that Harry Crews almost became the King of the Kingdom champion. Straight away, at one point, he pretty much lifted him up into his finisher, which is like a modified cradle shock, slams Joe Black down, and it looks said and done. Unfortunately, Harry Crews, and this could be down to inexperience or being too eager to become champion, he didn't see how far Joe Black was from the ropes, which Joe Black used to his massive advantage and whatnot, and eventually managed later on to hit the Swanton Bomb and secure the victory of another successful defense. Now, after this match, you can see that Joe Black was pretty much proud, standing tall, dominant and whatnot over Harry, but Harry was slowly getting back up. Much to a lot of people's surprise, as Joe Black was music about to hit, Regan's music hits. Straight away, you could feel tension in the air. Regan comes out, pretty much gets on the face of Joe Black, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, is he actually going to be trying? Is this going to be a future matchup? Is it going to be Regan versus Joe Black? And you've got Regan stating to Joe Black, witness me. Witness me. Before he lays his hands on Harry Crews and pretty much decimates him. That's the only way to explain it. He absolutely decimates him. Straight after, he literally stating to Joe, "Have you seen enough? Have you seen enough? Have you witnessed me?" And Joe Black states, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I witness you. The boys also have witnessed you." And then in some sort of symbolic gesture, he's almost like shaking the hand, and he suddenly like kneels onto a knee. Now, a lot of people might assume that Joe Black was kneeling to him. It might not be. It might be their way of introducing a new member. I can see this being the introduction of Regan joining the Purge. Which I will state, if Regan has joined the Purge, wow, you've got 4 very, very talented guys, each in their own right, top quality, but each have their own speciality field. Now, a lot of the time I will state Joe is stronger than what you think, but adding in Regan, who's been a beast of a man lately, he's been literally throwing people around like rag dolls whenever possible, and you've got a force to be reckoned with the Purge right now. But we'll have to see how that continues on at a later date. Moving on to match 2, which is Ajax versus Davian, with Gareth D. Holloway in his corner. Now, I know all matches can be back and forth and whatnot. I will state this was it was sort of back and forth, but you could see that Ajax had the clear advantage in this match. He seemed to be out wrestling Davian at times and whatnot, and it also I feel as though Davian was using the fact that he's got Gareth D. Holloway out there quite a lot. And you can see Gareth rubbing his hands as, he's getting his cheap shot in here and there. However, I'm pretty sure he didn't like some of the return shots that Ajax managed to give back. Possibly receipting them just a little bit. But I will state, this was an interesting dynamic match. These pair have faced off previously, and Davian has beaten Ajax. But Ajax has had victories over Davian as well. Now, what was interesting in this match, for me personally, is you could see that a lot of the guys, both these guys, partially knew each other, so they were having to pull out either some old move from their repertoires or some unique new ones and whatnot. Because straight away you got them going, move for move, hold for hold, counter to counter. And, Gareth getting them, Gareth D. Holloway getting in went just at the right times. Now, in the match, I will state a few times Ajax looked like he had it cinched in, signed, sealed, delivered, for just have Gareth be there and get involved. I'm surprised that Gareth didn't get sent to the back, especially with one point when the referee caught him putting Davian's foot on the ropes to break up a pin. Straight away there, I'm surprised he wasn't sent to the back, but that's up to the referee's discretion and whatnot. But I will state, still a back and forth match that had some unique offense, and I will state, interesting dynamic when it came to the match at the end of the match as well, especially with the fact that Ajax managed to get his comeuppance on Gareth D. Holloway, a bit of a swift punch right straight into it, and straight from there you've then got Davian trying to take advantage of the situation, while Ajax is pretty much on the outskirts of the ring. However, Ajax managed to, hit him in the gut, come over the ropes, over Davian, ducked the clothesline, and while Davian wasn't looking, smash him with a bit of a backstabber, which surprisingly has sent Davian normally to the ground, but Davian had enough, somehow aware enough to stay on his feet. However, he probably wished he didn't, and may have gone down, because straight away, Davian, while he was rocking, Ajax decided to go on the outskirts, springboard in, come diving in, crossbody, boom. Now it looked like he could have gone straight for the pin, but Ajax, he had this. He wanted to get this done, signed, sealed, delivered. As much as he knows he may have already beaten him, he wants to set the nail in the coffin, and he ends up doing that, pumping up the crowd, getting on top rope in a very unique fashion, and hits a very unique splash, because he somehow jumps in midair. It was like any regular splash, but as he jumped, he twisted his body 180 degrees and lands on Davian crisp. And I will state that takes quite some agility to be able to twist your body in the air and land it so perfectly to pretty much use the full force of his body weight, get the 1, 2, 3 and the victory. So in this encounter between Ajax versus Davian, we have Ajax coming out the winner. And and I will state, Ajax seems to be getting quite a number of victories. Who knows? Could this be a chance of a interesting winning streak? Match 3 of this event, and most likely, definite match of the night in my case and book, and potentially a candidacy for match of the year, because this match is going to be damn near hard to top. Now, just to explain some of this match, this was the infamous Jamie Future versus Joey Sanchez. Now, the stipulation is, if Sanchez wins, Future leaves Academy Pro Wrestling and doesn't come back. However, if Future wins, then Sanchez has to become Future's trainee, or before, if he refuses, be forced to leave the Academy Pro Wrestling. That I will state is some massive stakes in regards to it, and I will state from the get-go, I know these pair. I've seen these pair go at each other before, and I literally, before this match even started, I called one thing that happened in the match. I knew it was going to be barbaric. And take into account, this match was still fought in a singles contest, but the referee was allowing some leniency, especially with the hatred that these pair have. And to put it in simple, I've seen these pair go at each other in matches where they're pretty much beaten, battered, bruised, ladder matches. I've seen every time these pair go at each other, it is almost like car crash TV. It's something devastating, but it pulls you in, and that's the best way I can explain this match in my own words. And this match, I will state, it even had some, if I'm not mistaken, it even had one fan at one point very, very upset in regards to what was happening in the match and how serious it was getting. But I'll get to that part a bit shortly. Future and Sanchez are no stranger to each other. from the get-go, they know each other. You've got, Future avoiding Sanchez's super kick and whatnot, and they go to sleep and the sharpshooter. But then you've got Future trying to hit rainmakers on Sanchez and whatnot, and Eddie was managed and Sanchez was managed to avoid it. Counter. These pair know each other, so it was pretty much, this was going to be a counter. Almost going to be who makes the first mistake could end up losing the match. And quite frankly, with this, in regards to this match, that may have been the case in possibly a mistake happening or a miscalculation, and unfortunately it cost somebody the match. Now, in regards to who it cost in the match, that would be Sanchez, because this match was going from pillar to post to the outside. They were brawling, they were slugging it out, But what was so shocking is the fact that you got both Future and Sanchez hitting each other with their finishes that they've hit on each other before, and been match done, dusted, and they're kicking out, and it's like, wow. You've got the crowd stating at one point, where this is awesome, and they wanted this match to continue on and on and on. However, that soon enough changed when the dynamic had quickly changed when the animosity between Future and Sanchez got so ferocious. Sanchez literally was running on the ringside to launch himself at Future, and unfortunately for Sanchez, as he leapt, Future moved and sent Sanchez crashing into the rail. Now, unfortunately, as he went how he dived at Future, Sanchez hit his head on the railing, which completely disorientated him, possibly even gave him a concussion. But the head trauma that it caused Sanchez to be busted open. And I will state this: as soon as Future saw blood coming from Sanchez, he went in like a piranha. He aimed at Sanchez's head. He's aiming at where the cut is. He was vicious, maniacal, and you've got a lot of, at some point there's the boundary of, has Sanchez had enough? Has Sanchez been beaten? Had he been viciously beaten and whatnot? And the scary thing about it is, Future was attacking left, right, centre, but you can see that Future wasn't going to be ending the match anytime soon. He wanted to torture Sanchez. That's how much the hatred is between them. But here's the thing: the twisty thing about it is, it's unbelievable. No, what I mean is, Future was torturing Sanchez. You can see it. Both of them hate each other so much, and it's almost like a coin. It's almost like, with Sanchez, he is his. It's almost like polar opposites. You got Joey Sanchez, opposite side of him, Jamie Future. It's almost like, the old classic tale: Superman, Lex Luthor, Batman, Joker, Joey Sanchez, Jamie Future. And in this case, you can see Future was in his element, attacking Sanchez viciously as he's causing more blood to come out. And at one point, a fan was that concerned they were considering trying to get at ringside, but due to health and safety wasn't allowed. But unfortunately, there was it was getting close to the point of when's enough, because Future, as he's beating down Sanchez, as much as he didn't, you could see Future was reveling in it. You could see it in his eyes. He was he was delighted. He was chauvinistic in what he was doing. He was a torturist in that moment, and he was loving every minute of it. But here's the thing: as much as he was, no matter what, Future wanted to publicly beat down Sanchez so he couldn't get up. Sanchez didn't want to stay down. He kept get back up, and back up, showing how much heart he's got. Eventually, you could see the frustration on Tommy Gunn. Now, not a lot many people some may know this or may not. Tommy Gunn is actually Joey Sanchez's brother. It's his family. And Tommy Gunn was having to watch on as his brother is getting viciously attacked left, right and centre and pulled apart while he's injured. And bear in mind that Sanchez was technically only hurt because of a misjudgment. It was by a fluke chance. Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, the match could have gone either way. As soon as that happened, and Future avoided the dive, and Sanchez hit the barricade, that was the mistake that most likely cost Sanchez the match. But wow, if I was in Tommy's position, this, I will state, was, you can see that Tommy was having a hard decision. Does he want to keep, his brother wishes to keep fighting, never stopping, or throwing the towel, as much as you don't want to lose to him, as much as you may not want to become Future's trainee, or maybe even leaving the APW. At least he'll be able to possibly either fight at another place on another day. Who knows? But, or, it was getting to the point where I honestly think in regards to this, the vibe that Tommy was probably getting is if Sanchez, if Sanchez wasn't going to stop and Future wasn't going to stop, then the only way it was going to possibly end was possibly one of them being seriously injured or far worse. And in this case, it looks like Sanchez was coming up short, and Tommy was having to do the merciful thing in throwing the towel on his behalf, which ended up giving the victory to Jamie Future, who was absolutely delighted. Couldn't have been more happy in regards to the situation, and now he has Sanchez as his future trainee. The question is, what is he going to get him to do? Because there's going to be a time where it's going to be too much, but we'll have to see what comes of this. We'll have to see, and we'll most likely see more of that at the next show, which I will be providing details of the next show later on. But in regards to this, I will state this match, possibly most likely match of the night, and possibly even match of the year for APW Academy Pro Wrestling. Absolutely astounding. Nothing more to say. Match 4 of the show, and I will state I felt sorry for whoever was in this match, especially after following match 3 and whatnot, but I will state they were up to the challenge. They were up for, put on an amazing show and whatnot. With that being the Minesweeper Ashley Dunn, who was also making his debut at the Academy Pro Wrestling. And he was against none other than the Blue Arrow, Damo Scorpio. What was so interesting with this is, straight away, both of these are high flyers. Now, to me, the way Ashley Dunn came out, it looked like it was going to be, good guy versus good guy and everything. But when Damo came out, you could clearly see who was the more likeable, who was the more known in that area. But I will state, with this, that Ashley Dunn does have more of the experience and and whatnot. But I will state, very interesting dynamic these pair had. What was so interesting is the fact that you got Ashley Dunn coming out with a championship belt and making it very crystal clear his championship wasn't on the line and that he shouldn't be, which I thought was quite interesting, especially with the ring announcer stating, is that because you're scared, maybe? Or he was possibly, making sure to follow certain rules and regulations, especially with the organisation who probably most likely owns that championship belt. Now, the match itself was very, very fast-paced, move for move, arm drag, hold for hold, drop kick, counter, absolutely fast-paced, the way it should be, and I will state. But what was interesting is the fact that you got Ashley Dunn using certain aspects to his advantage. He was using some of his knowledge, but at the same time, you could see what appeared like little cheap shots and whatnot. Also, I will state this, Ashley, my goddamn elbow shots to the skull. I'm surprised you weren't warned by the referee on multiple occasions, because a few times I honestly thought you had laid out Damo. And, another move I will state that did occur in it from Ashley Dunn to Damo Scorpio, which was a modified shoulder breaker that looked like he crumpled his neck. If he didn't crumple his neck, he crumpled the body part, and then not long after, they hit slamming him down, which almost looked like it was on his neck. It was like, whoa. It was like he was trying to make his mark. And I will state, what was so interesting in this is, as much as you got Ashley Dunn, who has got more experience of being in wrestling a bit longer, you've also got Damo Scorpio showing how much heart he's got, that he is the local favourite and whatnot. And that, regardless of how much experience, as much as as long as you've got the heart, you can pretty much do anything. As long as you've got the determination, you can do anything. Now, what was interesting in this match is it was going back and forth, move, and everything. And what was so nice to see was the fact that a simple roll-up managed to get the victory for Damo Scorpio, and that Ashley Dunn was caught off guard. He wasn't able to kick out at 3, and unfortunately lost. So in a way, it might have been, as much as the ring announcer stating scared you might lose the title, some could say, if he had put it on, could Damo now be holding the championship gold? But nevertheless, it was very interesting to watch, the fact that it was very back and forth and whatnot. But I will clearly state that you can see who the favourite was, especially with Damo Scorpio. And this was as much as some people could say, they were both speed. You could tell that Damon Scorpio had a bit of the speed edge on Ashley, but Ashley had the experience and a bit more of the power gain as well, which he did use into full effect. Now, interesting match, and I will state after match, Ashley, pretty much grabbed the mic and pretty much bombarded the APW faithful, the crowd and whatnot, stating how much he didn't like him and how much better his place is compared to the current location, the Kaioshinkai Martial Arts Fitness Centre in Bridgnorth, Mayley Telford and whatnot. He was stating, he's going to go back home to acquire better company, and which straight away he's not going to get anybody, any favours from the crowd. But interesting to say. But I will state this: be very interesting to see him back again at the Academy Pro Wrestling. You never know; he could end up coming back. And I will state, great match, great show. I hope to see more matches even more matches like this coming into it, because I will state this was a very interesting match, because this is also a match that, with Damo getting the victory, he's also sort of building a name up for himself, and who knows, that could end up leading on to more matches outside of APW or onto bigger goals. Match 5, which was Eddie Cobain with G. John Chase. Now, straight away, a lot of us know who Eddie Cobain is and whatnot. At the APW or Academy Pro Wrestling. Now, a lot of the some of the more up-to-date fans may not know who G. John Chase is. Me, myself, I do, because I've seen him during the EDW days and whatnot. And I will state, the man can make certain funny segments. As much as he tries to be serious, what he can portray is quite comical. But I do believe that these statements, manager of champions, can be, he has got proof of that in his track record. Straight away, if anybody wants to look it up, go for it, or even ask the man himself. Well, if he wasn't the manager of champions, if I'm not mistaken, he wouldn't have managed a wrestler known as Michelangelo's David, who currently now was a former Scorpion and is the now current Dave Del Vecchio. If I'm not mistaken, he is a champion in his own right at another company. But straight away, he does great work. G. John Chase does, and here's the thing: a lot of people say, isn't he just the same as Gareth D. Holloway? D. Holloway is more of a business acquired and whatnot. He's doing it for greed and money, where G. John Chase he's just doing it because he thinks he can get away with it. So I feel as though he's got more of an arrogancy to him and whatnot. But it's interesting how they've got him involved, especially with the Eddie Cobain situation. And Eddie Cobain is up against Kieran McQueen. Now, straight away, Kieran, I will state, he hasn't had his lucky. He didn't get his victory. He hasn't been getting much victories and whatnot. He's been getting a few beat ups and whatnot. But what a great way to set the bar high, taking on Eddie Cobain, the former APW champion. Well, if you think about it, if he beats Eddie Cobain, he can potentially put himself straight up higher up in that title contendership to be trying to become the next APW Academy Pro Wrestling champion. Now, this match was very interesting because straight away you saw Eddie try to jumpstart Kieran. Kieran was a bit more, might have done a bit of homework on Eddie, knew that he was going to attack and pretty much come fighting out the gate. could see that Kieran was more the high risk taker because he was having to use that because of the size disadvantage he was having, and Eddie Cobain was clearly using his size advantage and using the power game fully to his advantage, and he was also using the fact that he's got G. John Chase there, who as much as I will state, a lot of people can say, oh, he's out there, it's 2-on-1. Yes, it was, but the thing is, G. John Chase knows that Eddie Cobain can look after himself. He always got himself involved when, to some people's eyes, when necessary. Or in my eyes, when he thought the tide was turning towards, possibly Kieran making a comeback. Now, I will state, you can see that Kieran was managing 5 shots, showing his heart, his heart and soul for wrestling, where, as soon as Eddie was getting on top of him, he was causing him beat down. You can see he was having pure enjoyment from it. And I will state, it was an interesting match dynamic. However, it looked like there was going to be a potential the roll up. Unfortunately, Eddie managed to kick out, and as he kicked out, there was a bit of a issue with the referee, checking up on Eddie Cobain because he had, checking for shoulders while he's being pinned. Kieran was going towards the ropes, and G. John Chase managed, with using his knowledge of being, at the perfect positioning to manage to literally catch Kieran McQueen by catching him up on the ropes, throat first, pretty much which can, a lot of people can say, hitting your throat on the rope may not do as much damage, but it does. Straight away as soon as it hits, you're short of breath. You're trying to catch it. You're in a bit of a world of you're hurting, and as you try and catch your breath, you've got Eddie Cobain immediately there, standing up, waiting ready for Kieran, and he just pretty much nails him with his own version of his own version of a Sister Abigail. If I'm not mistaken, he calls it the Let's Get Weird driver. Now, straight away there, for me personally, I thought, as soon as you saw that, lights out, especially with the choke, with the suddenly landing on the ropes somewhat, or pulling onto the ropes to cause the quick choke or sudden force on the throat, followed by that move, lights are out. And I will state, it was unfortunate for Kieran because straight away the numbers game was too much, and as much as he is a he's a fighter and whatnot, it wasn't going to work in this case. But G. John Chase and Eddie Cobain wanted to set a clear message at the same time, because they still have their personal grudge against Ajax, especially with Ajax defeating Eddie Cobain and whatnot, trying to lay down the law. He's coming for him. Well, then answer this. What the hell happened? As soon as Ajax come running in to make the save for Kieran McQueen, Eddie Cobain and G. John Chase left the scene. Exit stage right. Or stage left for either one of them. Regardless of which direction they went, they didn't care. They were getting the hell out of there. Now, this straight away sets up, potentially a match at the next show. Could we end up having Eddie Cobain versus Ajax, a rematch? Only time will tell. And if that is the case, as much as Ajax did overcome, did have a victory in his match, especially when his opponent did also have some assistance, he may find it a bit more difficult going up against Eddie Cobain with G. John Chase, especially for 2 factors. One, you must never forget that Eddie Cobain is the former APW champion, and that G. John Chase is more crafty than what people should give him credit for. I've seen some of his work, and that man is devious. And take into account when he actually says his name, what the G stands for. He states it's for genius. A lot of people could say otherwise, but his track record does state he does know what he's doing and is clever enough to pretty much anybody who he's associated with wise them up, get them on track. Now, with that, I will state, interesting matchup potential for the next show. So who knows? More on that later. And I will state, unfortunate for Kieran McQueen for not getting the victory. Who knows? Maybe he might get the victory at the next show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for match 6 and the show's main event, which consisted of CJ Connors versus Luke Basham, and this is for the APW Championship. And in this match, they've got a sort of backup in Luke Basham's corner, in with the case of Big Mark Wilde, and in CJ Connors' corner, you've got Steve Keane. Now, straight away there, I was expecting, Joe Black to be there, possibly Regan also to be there, to possibly use the numbers game, but there might be a case of Regan was in the back taking care of Joe from his match earlier on, and Keane was making sure, keeping an eye out to see if he could pull off any dirty tactics for Connors. But that was going to be quite difficult with Big Mike Wilde there. Now, straight away, this match had got some history with it, especially with the fact that CJ Connors at the previous show, he viciously attacked Luke Basham, almost potentially trying to end his career with a tombstone pile driver onto a steel chair. Now, that straight away says to me, Connors was out for blood. He was out for that championship. But Luke being the fighting champion, hells no, was he going to be given? He was not just going to be handing it over to CJ Connors. Now, this match, I will state, these pair know each other really well, and it went back and forth mercilessly. They were fighting for the company's grandest prize, going back and forth, and there was numerous close calls and whatnot. But I will state, by having Big Mark Wilde out there, it did end up being a bit of a game changer, especially with Steve Keane being he was sort of trying to cause a distraction, which then Connors tried to use a weapon, which, if I'm not mistaken, Big Mark Wilde put a halt to it, and Steve Keane tried to, sort of come round to Big Mark Wilde and forgot how big he was. Immediately, Big Mark Wilde chased Steve Keane straight to the back, so there was going to be no trouble whatsoever from him anymore, which then led this to a one-on-one contest, fair game, and whatnot. But I will state, Connors made it look like he had the win, especially when he somehow averted the referee, cheap-shotted, Luke Basham, and put a bit of a deciding factor by, putting a massive, jumping off the second rope stomp onto Luke to try and, go for the 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. He then went for it again. Unfortunately, he missed, and Luke Basham made him pay. Now, immediately, as soon as he moved out the way, boom, nails him with a spear, sends him crashing to the canvas, and, Connors was writhing in pain, but Luke Basham knew that, he was writhing in pain. He didn't want just to put him, he didn't want to just put him down, he wanted to put him down and shut him up. So then he went for the second, literally using the momentum of the ring, bouncing off the ropes, avoiding him, bouncing off the ropes twice, to come back, hitting him full force with the second spear for the 1, 2, 3. Now, immediately, I know straight away, congratulations to Luke Basham being successful in defending his, APW championship. Unfortunately, CJ Connors didn't win and whatnot, but straight away, at least this was a fair contest. Big Mark Wilde even, made a return to celebrate with Luke Basham. Now, while Luke Basham was in his celebration moment, we had a special visit from Joe Black, and whatnot, who basically come out with his King of the Kingdom championship and whatnot. Both of them looking at each other, each of them with their championship in hand, and they raised it towards each other. Immediately you can see sparks are flying. It's about to get rough and ready, and immediately all hell breaks loose. Both of them start ripping at each other's throats. If I'm not mistaken, most of the locker room had to empty out to try and sort of stop the chaos between Joe Black and Luke Basham. But here's the thing. What was so interesting in the matter of that factor was straight away, if I'm not mistaken, in a previous statement from, anything involving the purge, if one foot fails, the other one tries. So far, Steve Keane is, if I'm not mistaken, has possibly tried. He hasn't been successful. CJ Connors has tried. He hasn't been successful. Is this going to be Joe Black's attempt for the championship? And if it is for the championship, could he be putting his championship on the line? So who knows? We could even be leading to champion versus champion, or even championship versus championship. So who knows? This could be the deciding one. Everything up for grabs. But we'll find that out most likely at the next show, which, if I'm not mistaken, is called The Road of Champions, which is on May 26th, and that it will be at the Kaiyu Shinkai Martial Arts and Fitness Centre, Courtworks Industrial Estate, Bridge North Road, Madeley, Telford, TF7 4JB. Now, straight away with that, I will state that has been the review, or the Burning Truth review of this show. And I will state, very interesting show. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, loved it, and it was a great, absolute, stellar matches and whatnot. We had a potential match of the year candidacy, especially with Sanchez versus Future, and who knows, we could see some potential future ones at the Road of Champions. Now, with this I will state is the end of this review, as we will be most likely moving on. This was the title of Retribution for Academy Pro Wrestling, and I will hopefully be catching you on the broadcast, or when the next show review that I do possibly could be audio or written. I'm hoping to possibly be doing more audio ones. Who knows? But until then, stay well, stay safe, and as always, check out your local wrestling.